Men are the prize podcast. It's Harvey, your host. How are you? I hope the day's good. Hope the week's good. I hope the spirit is lifted. I hope you're feeling powerful and strengthened and encouraged. I hope you're feeling good today. I have another fantastic guest. I've been blessed, I think might be the right word, this season. I've spoken to such fantastic people with great stories and great conversations. And the next one in this line of fantastic guests, I bring to you Benjamin Carlton. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. If you listen or watch, you know what I enjoy. And I love a good bio. And I'm about to break one out. This one is legit. Pack a lunch, lean back. Let's get into this. Benjamin Carlton is a leading change agent, social entrepreneur, and one of the catalysts of a national movement to first define Black people by their aspirations and contributions, then secure their fundamental freedoms to live, own, vote, and excel. Benjamin is co-founder of the iconic BMe Community, a national movement of community builders that are led and inspired by Black people. Under his leadership, BMe has influenced national policy and committed millions of dollars to local community leaders around the nation. BMe's 400 plus fellows have raised over $400 million, earned 67 major national awards, and helped over 2 million families secure educational, economic, human rights, health, and wellness opportunities. Okay, take a breath. Paragraph 2. Benjamin has become a sought after diversity, equity, and inclusion trainer, instructor, and keynote. He's trained the world's leading authorities about asset framing, storytelling, and narrative change. Some of these entities include the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, CBS Viacom, Focus Features, the Obama administration, GM Financial, Comcast Universal, JP Morgan Chase, Deloitte, and Stanford Social Innovation Review. The central premise of asset framing is to identify people by their contributions rather than their costs and then engage them in living out their aspirational identity for themselves and society. Oh, I feel better just reading this. Oh my goodness. In 2016, Benjamin decided to practice what he preached and came out as a gay minister in the root.com that generated national discussion. The TEDx speaker took his message of authenticity on the road and encourages his audiences to live their best, authentic lives every day. That is a bio, if I ever heard one. You've done quite a bit, sir. My first question to you is, what is it like hearing your accolades back?
I want him to hurry up. So get to the meat of the conversation. But it's a blessing to hear, especially from someone who is reading so well and
Thank
making
you.
it sound so good, throwing all of the flavor and the sauce on it. But I've been blessed to be able to serve in so many capacities and helping to build more caring and prosperous communities. And it is a part of my life's journey to serve, to be love and light in a world that often does not see me as love and light. And so I am thankful that, the universe decided to create this path for me to walk on. And it's a blessing to hear. It just lets me know that I got more work to do.
Ah, that's good. Take it not at the finish line, but just at the starting point. I like that. That's a good way to look at it. I asked that question because as Black men, we don't always get encouragement. So I'd like to read men their flowers, read this is what you did. And I know you wrote this, you do podcasts, you do shows, and I need a headshot. What you did, give me a bio. But I always it's always good to just kind of sit back, and it's not arrogant or cocky. I did this. That's a snapshot of what I've done. And obviously there's more. So I think when I talk to men, congratulations, brother. If nothing else, if you were to stop right now, you have lived a life, you have contributed so much. And I applaud you. And it was beautiful to read this. It just
Thank you.
means I got so much to do, brother. I'm behind. I gotta catch up. Let me go stretch and let's get to this. This is beautiful. Um, so The reason I wanted to have you on is I've been lucky to talk to Black men of different ilks, um, industries, struggles, and masculinity is what I've been talking about a lot. So I'm going to throw this question at you before we kind of dive into the mantra. You came out as a gay minister. When we talk about Black masculinity, does sexuality need to be part of that conversation?
Absolutely. We are often taught the toxic ways of how to show up in the world. Whether that is, showing up based on your gender, showing up based on your race, showing up based on your orientation or your sexuality. We have been told that there's only room for two. And so anything outside of that is wrong, toxic, demonic, outside of God. And so, absolutely, when we talk about masculinity, we need to talk about sexuality and everything else that contributes to this false sense of what masculinity really is.
Okay, all right. I've asked a few men that question lately because I've been thinking about what it means for me to be a man. And I wondered, does who I love really have a lot to do with what it is, me being a man? So it's just a question. I'd like to hear a different perspective, so I appreciate yours. Um, all right, let's get into it. If you've listened or watched this show, you know what I do here. I take the word prize. Four of the letters represent characteristics that I think make for a good man. And it's obvious I have a good man in front of me, and I'm going to delve in and we're going to figure out how. The first letter in the word prize is P. The word is purpose. Purpose is defined as reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. What is your purpose?
My purpose is to be love and light into the world. And whatever capacity I show up in, I'm always to be love and light and laughter. Those are the three L's that I live by. When I die, I don't want you to cry. I don't want you to be sad. I want you to remember the love, light, and laughter I brought to your life and know that I lived a fulfilled, purposeful life. That is my purpose.
I like that. I like that. In one of my previous episodes or interviews, somebody I spoke to, and he said that he wants to die empty. And he describes that as, and to me, I took it as when I die, I gave you everything. When I'm left, I gave you my spirit, my positivity, my encouragement, my soul. It also, when I go, that body is 6 feet below, but you got everything I had. And I feel like that's kind of what I give you. When you pass, is that a fair assessment?
I can give just the opposite of that, right? When I die, I want to die full. I want to die full of life's experiences. I want to die full of love. I want to die full of the energy that I absorb from other people in my life. And prayerfully, that energy goes with me to the next life. I want to take it all in. I don't want to leave anything on the table. What's for me won't miss me, and what's for me is mine. And I want it all. I'm greedy.
Yes, sir. And please continue. Keep being greedy. I like that. How long have you known that this was your purpose?
I've known that it was a part of who I was at a very early age. I didn't have a name for it. But everywhere I went, I was love. Everywhere I went, I was laughter. Everywhere I went, I was light. I changed rooms. I had an energy that drew people. People wanted to be around me, hang around me. And my mom has that same energy as well. Everybody wanted my mom to be their mom. I would come home and my friends would be on my porch with my mom. Now, wait a minute. I'm not even home. What are you doing on my porch? I have that drawing energy. I didn't have a name for it, but I knew that's what I was when I walked into spaces. That is how I showed up in the world. And life circumstances led me to be that way at a very early age, experiencing homophobia from my Black community before I even experienced racism from a white community. So building that tough skin to be able to show up in rooms and try to counter your hatred with love. I learned to do that at a very early age.
how has the experience, the, like you said, the homophobia from us, from our community, how has that shaped your purpose and your message and everything that you've done? How did that affect you, and how does it affect you now?
Experiencing that homophobia gave me a skill that has been my blessing and my curse. It gave me the skill to show up and be whatever the room needed, and not shake the table. So the blessing is I can show up and figure out what the room needs and be that resource. That's a very great skill to have in business, right? What's your problem? I can solve it. But then not wanting to shake the table, not wanting to make too much noise, not wanting to draw attention is the curse of it all. And so it gave me a life skill that has been a blessing to my life. It gave me an understanding of human behavior, right? Because when we look at race, we ask, well, how can you be racist and all these questions about racist, but yet you turn around and treat someone in your own community the very same way. The difference is we're not talking about race now. We're talking about who I am and who I am choosing to love and how I show up in the world. And so in understanding human behavior, it helped me to develop an empathy and a compassion to help folks overcome their isms, overcome their fears, overcome their ignorance. And I had to walk that journey of overcoming those things myself.
So you dealt with us, and I say us because I'm part of this community. And as much as I'd like to sit here and act like I've been tolerant and everything, I'm sure I wasn't perfect. How did dealing with us help you deal with them? Meaning the white with the racism and such.
Uh, I'll talk about dealing with me. I used to be publicly against the LGBTQ community. I came up in ministry, and it was culture, right? To demean and preach against the LGBTQ community. Even after coming out, I still had phobias and fears that I needed to deal with. I had fears and phobia about the drag queen community, the transgender community, the house ball community, anything that was feminine, that would cause, me to be teased or looked down upon by mainstream. I had fears with. And so I had to face my biases, face my fears, and now you can't tell me nothing. I love everybody. I might dress up in some drag and not think twice about it. Where before, you bet not say, the me then and the me now are two totally different people. And my conversion experience, my transformation helped me to understand that every human has the ability to change. Every human has the ability to overcome their fears, their bias, their phobias, all the things that would keep them from loving another human just for being them. And since everybody has that ability, there's hope and there's means to get there. People aren't born racist. People aren't born homophobic. We're taught that behavior. We're taught to cling to our tribe, and anything outside of our tribe is a threat. That is intrinsic to who we are as human beings. And so once I understood that, I said, oh, there's a path forward for us all. And that's a hard path. It's a long path, a difficult path, but it is a path.
The community that we are part of, in terms of just, African American, Black, the homophobia, it's rich. I feel like it's profound. You can't get away from it. It's in everything. What are we afraid of?
We are not necessarily afraid. We have been indoctrinated into believing that who we are as our core is a deficit. Who we are at our core is demonic. Before I can get people in churches to talk about LGBTQ, let's talk about white Jesus on your wall. Let's talk about this blue-eyed, white, blonde-haired God that our slave masters made us worship. Let's talk about that first, because colonialism disrupted queer love and indigenous spirituality all over the world. In Africa, South America, North America, India, everywhere, colonialism messed us up. And what they did was took who we were, our spiritual practices, our queer practices, and told us that it was savagery, that it was demonic, that it was not God, and that we should worship God like they worship God. We should center and elevate this white man with blonde hair and blue eyes. And anything outside of that is wrong. If you are a student of history, you will discover that being queer was embraced, accepted, and even celebrated in our indigenous communities, because those human beings were special enough to have the masculine and feminine energy. Our intersex people were born into the world and accepted for who they were. There were African gay kings and queens. In the Native American community, they celebrated two-spirited people, and you could be a husband-wife or a wife-husband, however you decided, and even decide about however you were created to show up in the world. Indigenous communities loved and accepted it. And colonialism, whiteness changed it all. And so we are now on a path of trying to discover who we are outside of the slave master's dictionary, because we've been defining ourselves based on their language, which is outside of who we are. It's a long path and a journey to get there. But again, it is a journey worth taking, because the example I use is when Beyonce came out with Black is King, Black churches lost their mind. Jesus is king. Well, according to scripture and according to history, Jesus was a Black man. So Black is king. But they tore her down when she talked about speaking with the ancestors and loving on ourselves and celebrating who we are. And they called it all demonic and called it all anti-Christ, when it's not really anti-Christ, it's just anti-white. And it's anti-white not because there's a hatred towards whiteness, but it doesn't center or elevate whiteness. When whiteness is not celebrated, when whiteness is not centered, it is seen as demonic. It is seen as anti-Christ. And that's what we've been taught. So we don't fear anything. We are just operating off terrible, terrible education.
Excellent. Well stated. Just hearing you speak, it's obvious you are a man of education, a learned man. And you mentioned somebody earlier who I want to ask about. You talked about your mother and the love that everybody had for her. How did, I assume, being raised by your mother shape your masculinity?
Being raised by my mom had a profound influence on how I showed up in the world. Because I had a stepfather who is Bahamian, and I had a dad. He unfortunately was a victim of the crack epidemic, spent my early years in prison. And so I thought I was the man of the house at 5 years old. And so I'm wanting to protect my mom and my sisters. I'm wanting to be the example for my sisters. I'm wanting to bring as much love and joy in my mom's life. So I did everything right. I got the good grades. I showed up. I got the awards because I wanted to be what I thought was missing, and that was a man.
Right.
And you know, even when my stepfather came in, I'm like, well, who are you, and what authority do you come in? Because this is my house. It's my family.
I like that.
And so she tried her best. You know, I was very feminine when I was younger. Most of my friends were girls. That's where I fit in. Loved it. She tried her best to throw me in sports, to toughen me up and, have me act like a man. And none of those things really worked because I was very, very independent as a child. I'm an Aries, very strong-willed, A-type personality. And I realized I couldn't compete with the guys on the basketball court or the football field, but I could compete with them in class. I could compete with them in my studies and in my books. And so wanting to be the astute, wanting to be the prize, wanting to be, the good son, I did what I could to shape my masculinity around making her happy and being accepted by her. If that all makes sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And what you say is not rare. A lot of us boys growing up are trying to be this, and the word you use a lot, this narrative, this expectation, this idea of what a Black man is. So in a different way, I feel like every boy at some point is dealt with what you have. So that was really well said. I had a question and it went out the window, so I'm done with that. Um, the next letter in the word prize is R, and the word is resilience. Resilience is defined as the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. You've told us, and I've read quite a bit about what you gone through and such, but can you pick out a situation, something that happened to you where you discovered you had a resilience that you didn't know that you had?
Resilience seems to be the theme of my life.
Yes, sir.
I had no choice but to be resilient, being a Black, queer, feminine boy in the hood. There were some situations I had to get out of. There were some situations I had to get into. And so resiliency has always been a part of my life. I believe a moment that makes me resilient is early on. Now, though I experienced homophobia from my Black community before I experienced racism from a white community, the racism from a white community was much tougher than the homophobia from the Black community. Tease me, call me names, but nobody was trying to, harm me. No one was trying to strategically hold me back. And so after my dad went to jail, we moved to a majority white neighborhood on Section 8 in Philadelphia. So they were putting Section 8 people in nice neighborhoods. And so, the first couple days of my block, I was called the N-word. In school, I was called the N-word. In school, I was chased with rocks and spit on. But I showed up and still prevailed. You called me the N-word, you called me a monkey, you called me names, but guess who is getting all A's? Guess who's top of his class? Guess who is getting principal's awards and representing the school at national competitions? It's me. And so while my queerness wasn't welcomed in my Black space, while my whiteness, oh no, I'm not white, while my Blackness was not accepted in white spaces, I still prevailed and didn't let that hold me back, never used that as a crutch or an excuse. It actually motivated me to win so that I could say, hey, yeah, I may be those things, but guess what? Guess who's winning? I think experiencing all of that and not really having a safe space other than hanging with my girl cousins was being resilient and coming out on top in a lot of those spaces where I wasn't loved or accepted.
I talk to a lot of men, and what I've discovered is that a lot of men we don't have, I guess I like to use the word tribes. We don't have these groups of friendships. And that's something we used to have. I used to have a friend I could talk to, my hang out with, ball, whatever, somebody I could kind of release stuff that's going on. And I might be wrong with this. Did you have male friends growing up, or was it
Yeah.
predominantly girls? Okay. All right. So that's
No,
good.
I had male friends growing up, but I had to put on a personality to, chill and hang out. I had best friends, I had best guy friends, but I felt most comfortable with my girl cousins, or I could just, for lack of better words, lay down my hair, take off my wig, and
Right.
enjoy my life. But I had guy friends, I had guy best friends, and God really blessed me. The universe really blessed me with cis male masculine men who would protect me in spaces where I wasn't welcome. I had one of my best friends get suspended from school because one of these guys was talking about me. I didn't even know he was talking about me, and my friend just punched him in the mouth, and he got suspended. So I was protected my entire life. I had guy friends, but I felt most comfortable. But again, even in those guy spaces, I wasn't allowed to fully be me. Even they wanted me to toughen up, right? And act like a man and leave that, I'm not going to say what they said, but leave that alone.
Right. Right. I hear you talking about it, and I don't want to denigrate or diminish those relationships. Can I ask you, did you really have guy friends? Because they didn't, to be, I hear you, and it doesn't feel like they knew you. They were aware of your existence, but they didn't know you.
I would
So,
say yes, because they were friends with the person I chose to be. They were friends, truly friends with the personality I showed up with. I did not give them the opportunity to determine real friendship,
okay.
genuine friendship, authentic friendship, I should say, because I chose not to show up. And so they were friends with who I showed up as, truly a friend to that person. I did not trust that they would remain an authentic friend if I was my real self. And quite honestly, I didn't really know who he was either.
That's true. There you go. You have a few facets, you weren't yourself, but you didn't know who yourself was. So to a degree, I don't know, maybe you weren't yourself, you weren't your own friend yet. You didn't know who you were. So that's
That,
understandable.
that that's it. I wasn't my own friend.
Mhm.
I actually learned that a couple years ago that I did not love me. I did not honor me. I did not love me enough to show up in the world and say, whoever is going to love this is going to love it. I showed up in the world uh, as acceptable. I showed up in the world as whoever they wanted me to be. It wasn't until my mid 30s that I realized I did not truly love me. And I had to do some centering and journeying and go back and love that little Ben that was told to shut up, and love that little queer Ben that was told to toughen up and be a man, and love that little feminine Ben, that was teased and mocked. I had to go back and love on him.
Well said. Beautiful. Are you, do you love yourself entirely now, or is this still a process of learning yourself and appreciating you as you go along?
I love all that I know right now. It is a continual journey of self-love. You are never done loving yourself because you are never done discovering who you are.
Mhm.
I had a major shift in mindset just at the end of 2022, coming into 2023, about who I am and how I want to show up in the world. And that was an opportunity to say, do you love this person that's showing up right now? And the answer, of course, was yes. And I have the skills now to digest and process who I am as I evolve. But I think it's an ongoing journey. I love all who I am right now, and I'm hoping to love who I am in the future.
Wonderful. And that's a big thing because of who I speak to, which is Black men primarily. Want Valuing yourself enough to put yourself at the forefront and appreciate yourself and love yourself. That's a journey. That's a big deal because a lot of us Black men, we are raised to provide. And even you as a 5-year-old man, that's what you thought you were supposed to do. I'm here to
Yeah.
take care of mom, my sister, take care of this house. You step on this porch, you come into my land, that thing. So we focus so much on others that when you turn the energy inward, it's hard to deal with.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. What do you do? Do you love you? Are you valuable? That's the conversation. And I talk to a lot of men, I usually wait for the end, but I think just because of how you mentioned this, I kind of want to get into it. I ask men two questions at the end, usually when I do this. One, what do you do to self-soothe? What do you do for you, not for your spouse, significant other, family, best friend, job? What do you do? So, Benjamin, what do you do for you when life is kicking you in the, in the butt? It's a struggle, people not treating you the way you're supposed to, you not feeling that good about yourself, and you need a release. What is your thing for you to kind of a few hours away from the stress that is this world that we live
Two things. One, I either sleep.
Get that rest, baby. I see.
I'm just going to sleep. It's, you know what? I need a nap. I need to recharge, re-energize. I just need to sleep it away. And generally, by the time I wake up, whatever the stress and anxiety was, I have calmed it through sleep, and I'm waking up in a sound mind. I also love to travel. I love to just get away. I just spent a month and a half in Southeast Asia, journaling, exploring, praying, centering, all the things to prepare me for the shift that I was going through. And so I generally like to get away, be by myself. I practice yoga, meditation, mindfulness practices to really get away from the noise that is outside of me so I could really hear the me inside that's talking. So either sleep or travel. But while doing both of those things, I'm practicing mindfulness.
Okay. Elaborate on mindfulness for people who don't know.
Mindfulness is the ability to tap into one's thoughts. As a man thinketh, so is he. And so we are so consumed with the outside world. And in today's age is social media and technology. We are so consumed with everyone else's thoughts, actions, beliefs that we are drowning out our own voice. We are drowning out our own moral compass. We are drowning out our own ability to make a decision that is best for us because we're considering everyone else first before us. So mindfulness practices is putting yourself first, listening to yourself, detaching from things that are keeping you from hearing yourself, detaching you from things that are stressing you and causing you to be oppressed, depressed, anxious, and really attaching to the things that bring you clarity, bring you peace, and calms your anxiety.
Excellent. Excellent. The second question I ask men, and this kind of goes back to me talking with you about the friendships that you had. I talk to men and I ask them this question. Do you have a friend right now? Like you did something stupid, dumb. Like I don't even understand why I did it. Do you have a boy you call right now? Listen, I did something really stupid and I don't even know why. I don't know what I was thinking. Do you have that friend who you could call who would hear you and be like, Ben, that was some dumb shit you did right there, bro. That's right. You should have done that. But would listen with no judgment, no reprisal. Somebody you could tell who would give you a little rib because that's what we do. But when you were done, you could just lay your troubles at his feet. Do you got a guy like that, a friend, not family, nobody like that? Do you have a friend like that who on the other side of the phone is there for you in a space where you are completely safe with telling him anything?
Yes, I have a couple of those friends, but I've been blessed by God and how God has orchestrated the universe to align pillars around my life. I've had that guy friend since I was a kid.
Oh, that's good.
Now he showed up in different persons throughout my life, but I've had that ever since I was a kid, someone that I could turn to and just bear all and be myself. I've been blessed to have that.
That's
Like a
wonderful.
guardian angel in human form that shows up in different friends.
That's good. A lot of us don't. A lot of us have acquaintances, but a lot of us don't have friends. I know you, but they don't know me. And that's when I talk, I'm like, you got to value yourself and you got to have an outlet. Like, I know you want to tell somebody what's going on in your life, but do you have somebody you feel safe enough to? So every time I talk to a man, it's like, yes, I have this friend. I've known him forever. He knows all my stuff. I know all his stuff, all that. That friend, that's imperative to be able to live in this world, to be able to just don't have to hold it all in. Because that's kind of what being a man is a lot, is not releasing, just keeping all of it here. So that's wonderful to hear that you have that. And I'm hoping the more men I speak to, that we get these tribes back together. We men need to connect and understand that we're not going through these struggles alone, that there's somebody who knows exactly what you're going through. And that support's important. I'm going to skip the I in the word prize. I'll get back to it. The next letter in the word prize is Z. The word is zeal. Zeal is defined as enthusiastic devotion. So, putting away family, significant others, and the work that you do. To a degree, I feel like I've almost asked this already, but let's do it anyway. Putting all that other stuff aside, what are you enthusiastically devoted to?
Hmm. I am enthusiastically devoted to reaching my maximum potential. And I know when I reach my maximum potential, great things will not just happen for me, but the world around me. And I had to learn to center myself, place myself first in order to fulfill a lot of the goals that I wanted to achieve. Where before, a lot of my goals were outward facing and serving others. But I realized that if I served me, if I elevated me, if I put me first, that the end result of that would be blessings all around me and those in my space. And so I am devoted, enthusiastically devoted to me in whatever form that is, whether it is in my career, in my spiritual practice, in my devotion and love to others, and how I show up to the world. But as I put more energy into aligning where I am to the purpose that the divine has for me, the better my world is and those around me.
I can, I hear that into me. I hear it as I can help the world. I can be of service to the world. But before I can help the world put their masks on, I have to put mine on first. I need to take care of me first, and then I'm going to take good care of you. But I got to be set. I got to be set first. And it's valuable and you're worth the time you spend to be better. I think about that as I'm a father, I'm a husband, I have 4 kids. And to me, the better I am here, the better my kids are, my wife are, and by extension, community, neighborhood, state, world, all that good stuff. And it's not selfish to want to make yourself better, to focus on yourself no matter how long it takes or whatever you have to do to be better. A better
Yeah,
Benjamin is a better man to this world.
yeah. You can't give from an empty cup. And what I've heard and learned over the years is that anything that spills outside of that cup is for other people. That's the overflow. But what you pour into the cup is for you. But if you are constantly draining yourself and devoted to causes and people that are outside of you, who fills you back up, right? You eventually reach burnout. You eventually reach a place where you're not having fun anymore or doing the things that you do because it's not fulfilling. You are lacking spiritually. You are lacking in your physical health. You are lacking. I know so many servants and pastors and people in nonprofit world who just burn out because they're devoted to the cause, which is noble, but it's not wise. The wise thing to do is devote yourself to you so that you can devote yourself to the cause.
That's profound. That is, and that's important. I'm going to step away from a second for this. I have a question, and let me preface this question with I'm an atheist. So I want to put that out front. How how do you handle all that you've experienced, all that you've dealt with, whether it's from us, from them? How can you maintain that faith, that positive outlook, and serve a deity, and actually even believe that there is one? I ask this, and not because I'm not some atheist who attacks people who believe in God, but I'm genuinely interested. This would I'd find it hard to believe and stay not even religious, but spiritual with all that's happened. And there's some thing that's letting it happen to me. How do you do it?
I've struggled with that probably my entire life. I was called into love practice early on without even knowing what religion and God was. I would see church played out on television, etc. I didn't come from a religious family, and I would gather my friends in the yard and preach to them at like 6 or 7. I was not raised by spiritual people. I was not raised by religious people. It was something that was intrinsic to who I was as a human being. I recently struggled, and one of my good friends, the friends that we talked about that we can just talk to, she said, "Ben, have you forgiven God?" I said, "What?" He said, "Have you forgiven God for all the things that you've gone through and you knew God could have done something about, but God didn't. Have you forgiven God for that?" And I was stuck for about a week because there are times where I am angry, not only about my life, but the conditions of the world. When you think about the slave trade, I'm really angry about that.
Mhm.
And what I've come to understand is that there are things that I will never understand in my lifetime. This earth is millions of years old, and I'm only here for a second. I'll never understand the full picture. But what I can do is appreciate what I do know, lean into love, and hope, really hope that that is the path to whatever is the bigger picture, right? We are energy that never dies, right? So I want to be in a flow that is leaning on love. I want to be in a flow that is leaning on hope. I want to be in a flow that is leaning on believing in something way bigger than myself. I cannot tell you how the world was created. I am a man of faith. I practice Christianity, but I do not believe in the Adam and Eve story. I do not believe that we came from these two white people, and that's how the world was created. I don't believe that, but I do believe that there's a God. I do believe that love is the path to God. I believe that love is God, and that if you serve and practice love, you are serving and practicing God. You may have a different name for it, right? I don't know, what your path is to atheism or being an atheist, but there is some belief. And if your belief is tied to love, then you are now tied to the entire universe that practices love. And so, to answer the question specifically, I'm leaning on that hope that love is the right answer, that love is the key, that how I choose to love and show up is how God chooses to love and show up for me, or vice versa. I'm practicing how God chooses to love and show up. But that would be my main question to a lot of leaders and pastors, like, well, how come there's famine? How come there's war? How come there's this? And how come there's that? And no one has, and I think will ever have the answer, right? We have I'll put it to this example. We have a belief in humanity, right? We want to believe that humanity is essentially good. We want to believe that we're safe in our spaces and safe in community and safe within our family spaces, friend spaces, all of that. But then there's a side of humanity that's really ugly. There's a side of humanity that's really evil. There's a side of humanity that is beyond disgusting. But just because humanity is disgusting and evil and untrustworthy and all those things doesn't mean we shouldn't believe in the hope of humanity and the love of humanity and the hope of our spaces and circles. And so just because God, the universe, the divine, allows and permits these things to happen through free will and whatever else, doesn't mean that we shouldn't believe in the total experience of who the divine is, if that makes sense.
I understand. I definitely get it. Excuse me. I grew up in the opposite direction that you did. Excuse me a second.
Because if we are, and most people of faith believe that we are made in the image of the divine and the image of the creator, then look at us.
Okay.
We are both love and hatred at the same time. We are both friends and foes at the same time. We are both giving and taking at the same time. So if we are this dynamic, what makes the divine any different?
Hearing you, I'm thinking about it. I grew up in a pretty religious household, Seventh-day Adventist. I'm Haitian, and we're super religious. And I grew up in it. And
I was about to say,
good. And I was just disillusioned with time, with life, with like 9/11 was like the day. I was like, I'm good. I grew up, I'm 48. I'm sure I'm a little older than you. And I grew up with seeing famine in Africa, We Are the World, and all the stuff that we have to do to help people. And I've got a pastor in my family and deacons. And I'm like, where is God? Where is this person? How are you letting this stuff happen? And I am constantly amazed at faith. I feel like it's such an interesting thing. It's this belief with no, well, I can't say no question, to believe this when there's so many other things that are against it. And I respect faith so much and wish I had it. Right now, I find it hard to believe, but I respect
well,
you. Go ahead, sir.
I'll say I believe that we have this expectation of God based on who man told us God is.
Okay.
Man told us that God is perfect. Man told us that God doesn't make mistakes. Man told us, if you make a mistake, God is ready to judge you and tear you down. And I'm looking like, well, why ain't God did anything to Donald Trump yet? Why is he running around so able to run for president? If that is the case, we've been sold a lie when it comes to the divine and spiritual practice, right?
Mhm.
If we are made in the image of the divine, look at us, look at humanity,
Mhm.
right? We ask the question of why is God letting this happen? Why are humans letting it happen?
Mhm.
Right? Why are
Yep.
we letting it always baffles me that you'll have, I came from Philadelphia, there'd be like 10 churches on one block, but that block would look terrible.
Mhm.
Now, how are all
Mhm.
these coming of faith coming into this neighborhood every day, every week, and this neighborhood looks like this? And so humans are complex, the divine is complex. And again, we won't understand the totality of everything because we're only here for a second. So the root of it, again, you asked about, what do Black people feared? Wasn't what we feared, it's what we've been taught. The root of this is we've been sold a lie about the divine.
A really interesting perspective that I didn't think about.
Because I've been told I'm going to hell my entire life. I'm gay, I'm going to hell. And I'm
Mhm.
like, there's no way I'm operating in love and operating in supernatural power and I'm going to hell. That makes no sense at all. So I
Agreed.
had to unearth and redefine the Bible for me and look at who created it, who wrote it, who influenced it, who had a hand on it over the years. And
Mhm.
so if we source our place of knowledge, we will discover where the error is. It's like back tracing. And so we've been sold a lie about who God is, and then there's so many different gods that compete against each other. None of that makes sense. So we've just been sold a lie, and that's what that's all about.
I like that. That's interesting. I am in this constant discussion with myself about religion, spirituality. I don't like religion. I've not been a fan of. So I like to think of spirituality, but that's a really interesting perspective that you brought up. But you said a word that fits, and it's expectation. The last letter in the word prize is E, and the word is expectation. And that is a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. What do you expect of your message in the next 5 years? Is there a specific change, something exact that you think is going to happen in the next few years, something that you are going to have a hand in? What do you expect?
Yes.
What's that?
Well, first of all, trailblazers are never honored in their present time. It takes humans a minute to tear down terrible beliefs, break awful habits, and to accept something they don't understand. So right now, I am at the front end of helping people understand that you can be a person of faith and gay, that you are not going to hell, right? There's been phases to this movement, and I am at the front end of the faith aspect of it. I'm seeing more and more affirming ministries pop up, not only around the United States, but around the world. We as Black queer people have so many more liberties than those in some awful places around the world, but we're seeing the change. And so my expectation is that there will come a day where this is a non-issue, right? That we're not in church fighting about whether you're going to hell or not. What I'm seeing now, and it's happening as there's been a change in the guard, a change in generation, leadership, is that the younger people are leaving institutions of faith by the millions, because it's no longer, well, not that it ever was, but a safe space to just be without judgment, without fear of going to hell. I always ask people, if I removed hell from your life, who would you be? Because most people are shaped in their beliefs, their actions based on, I don't want to go to hell, right? If hell wasn't a factor, it'd be more gay people, or more people willing to publicly be gay and display gay love. There'd be more, life would be so different. And so I believe it might not be in 5 years, but in the years to come, the new spaces that are being created by people who are looking for faith and love and acceptance, they're growing by the thousands. And so there won't be a need to investigate and navigate an affirming ministry, because it'll be one right on your corner. There'll be no need to look for a place of faith that will accept me, because there will be so many. And so many younger people are moving in that direction, because we are tired of the age-old doctrine that its purpose was to divide and conquer, right? If I can strip an entire continent, if I can strip an entire continent of their spiritual power and their spiritual practice, I have won and I have control. We are now moving back to that spiritual power and that spiritual practice, right? The spiritual practice and power that happens even in Haiti is seen as demonic, right? It's seen as savagery, it's seen as less than, when that is the true power. Tank was just talking about, I think Sam sings this song, Stay With Me. And he was like, he can sing that song and it be no problem. If I sing that song, it's not going anywhere. It's not charting. It's not number one, because when there's Black love, there's Black power. When there is Black division, they win. When Black families are separated, they win. When we're detached from our spiritual practices, they win. And so the more and more that we are discovering, wait a minute, because there's so many more Black people doing yoga now. So it's so much so that they've now commercialized it, and everybody's side hustle is spiritual practice. because it is such a hot thing right now, and it wasn't ever before within our community in mass. It's come little drips here and there, but in mass how it is, that's because we're realizing that's the true power. Yes, it's great to go to church on Sunday. Go ahead and go. Yes, it's great to support your ministries. Go ahead and go. I don't want anybody to say I'm not doing that. But we're finding real power and having our self-sufficient spiritual practices that tap us into who we are. We're celebrating new moons. We're into zodiac signs. We're into speaking and channeling, connecting with our ancestors, all the things that give us true power. And so maybe not 5 years, but in not too much longer after that, it's going to be more of this. And that's when I know that I will have had a hand in this space.
That's fantastic. I hear you talking about religion, and I wanted to go back because you mentioned it and asking people, where would you be if there was no hell? Because I've been atheist for a while and I'm in a family that is predominantly super religious. I'm like, I can't decide to believe in God by default, because that's really what that is. I'm going to believe just in case there's a hell. I don't want to go there. That doesn't feel like spirituality to me. That's not believing. I'm scared about going to a place where I will burn in infinity and it's gonna hurt forever. So let me just believe in something that might be around. That doesn't sound right to me. I'm like, hearing you talk about it, that's so interesting.
And that's why my spiritual practice is so different, because no one forced me into it. I didn't go to church because I was afraid of hell. I went because I was looking for love. And they say God is love, so I'm gonna go to church and find me some God. Now that was some.
You good?
I didn't find that. I didn't quite find that when I got there.
Right.
But that thought at a very young age. I started going to church as a teenager. I wasn't forced into it. I actually dragged my family along with me. But I think a lot of people, and I'll tell people, find God for yourself. Find love for yourself. Find your spiritual practice on your own. And whatever it is, so long as it is centered in love, you'll be all right. And I'm really sensing love practice in you. Everybody has a different name for it. God wasn't even a thing until the last couple thousand years. God, we made God up. Right? Jesus, the word J wasn't even in the English. It wasn't. All this stuff is brand new. Everybody had their own version of this spiritual practice with a different name. And so I always guide people, find your spiritual practice and name it what you want to name it. So long as you are loving yourself and you are loving other people, you will be all right. They asked Jesus what is the greatest command of all. Jesus said, love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And you can hang every other law on those two things. I don't care if you're tithing. I don't care if you're showing up to church every Sunday. I don't care if you're dressing in your Sunday's best. I don't care if you're serving the homeless. If you don't love God, if you don't love people, all that's for naught. Do those two things. Love your spiritual practice and love the people around you as you love yourself. You'll be all right.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people would argue with me on that basis, but show me another way that is non-discriminatory, and we can talk.
That's the key.
Because there's no discrimination in that. There's no demeaning in that. There's no judging in that. But most other paths are demeaning and judging, and are centered in my way is better than your way. My way is my way, has nothing to do with your way. Because when we all die, I don't expect to see you.
Valid point, sir. You described it so well. I really like it. Yeah, I got some thoughts after this. We're going to go back to the middle letter in the word prize, and that is I. And it doesn't represent a word. It represents the man that I'm speaking to. So I would ask you for a moment if we can throw off the shackles. Black man, minister, gay, best friend, significant other, employee, best friend, all of these things, author, all that. When all that's thrown off, and it's just you at your core, who are you?
Me at my core, honestly, it's like the three things that I've always said. It's really love, light, and laughter. I love to have a good time. I have a big, loud, boisterous laugh. And I just love. I love to be in love. I love to love. I love to be loved. And that's really it. That is the environment that I create. And that is a true testament of who I am at my core. No matter what environment I'm in, those three things show up because they have no choice because I'm there. And so, if I was, sweeping the streets, I'm doing it in love and light and laughter. If I'm, joining President Obama on stage, I'm doing it in love and light and laughter. I am that everywhere I go. And even when I am by myself, I will be laughing with myself, loving on myself, being light to myself. Like I said, whenever stress comes, whenever I'm overburdened, I got to get away to find the light that's within that is currently being dimmed by the world around me.
Excellent. Excellent. I have two last questions. And first, thank you for answering the questions in the prize mantra. I appreciate it. You've a whole new set of questions have come about because of your answers, and I appreciate that. That's the reason
You
I
can
do.
check off the box love, light, and laughter.
Boom, bang, bang, bang. I have a whole new perspective on how I live and how I want to step out into the world. And I really like that. It makes it easier when you go out there feeling this. I'm gonna be this. And you can't shake that. This is who I am. And either you accept it or you don't, or maybe just bask in it. And I think that's what you're doing. What you do, you're spreading out. You're bright. And I'm not trying to blow smoke or anything. There is a light that comes from you, your perspective, your happiness, your energy. There is no doubt. I can't be mad around you. I don't think I could. I don't know. You have to say something real. I can't imagine I'd be upset just hearing you talk. There's a certain energy that you bring. But two questions. One, what are you afraid of that you cannot control?
It's the cannot control that is the
That's the
cap.
point, brother.
Some things, but I can control them.
Right.
But what is the thing that I'm afraid of that I cannot control? Um, I am deathly afraid of giving my all to someone, specifically like a partner, a significant other, years in it, and then being screwed over.
Mhm.
I can't control. And that's, trust, vulnerability, all that comes in. And I lean on, I'm going to just trust the divine and trust that divine's care that even if it does happen, I'm still in good hands. Even if it does happen, my life is quite all right. But that's one thing that I'm afraid of that I cannot control.
Okay. And the last question. When I talk to men, I've heard the phrase that the first time men get flowers is at their funeral, which is why at the beginning of this, I always make a point to just like remind you, you've done a lot. Your bio usually it says a lot. So, do you remember the last compliment somebody gave you?
Yes.
Will you
I
share it?
so I hang out in uh very black, um, affluent, um, high social emotional levels, high vibrational level spaces, which oftentimes is good and bad because it has me to forget what the rest of the world is like.
Mm, mm,
Most of my spaces are very loving, very much so. When we see each other, we are complimenting each other down.
Mm.
And so I was just at for the culture brunch. My friend Nick Wiggins and his colleague put that on, and it's an opportunity for Black leaders to honor other Black leaders. And so it generally happens during the NAACP Image Awards here in Los Angeles. And so I had this really nice sweater on, form fitting, and I hadn't seen one of my homegirls in a minute. And when she saw me, her face just lit up. I mean, she looked amazing. Face was beat. She had on this white and gold. She looked really good. And she was just like, I love who you are. She said,
Ooh.
I am seeing this growth in you that is amazing. She said, keep it going. She said, don't you stop. She said, you look good. You're, I just see everything. And it was just a moment. And I, of course, return all that love right
Mhm.
back to her. But it wasn't the words, it was her face when she first saw me. And that was all I needed. She didn't even have to say anything. It was just her face. The energy was like, I'm appreciating this brother. I'm appreciating this moment. We haven't seen each other in a while. And I'm just going to love on him. But it was her energy, her receiving me, her face that really said it all.
It's beautiful. I talk to men because it's a rarity for us to get that kind of acknowledgement, that kind of encouragement. And I'm a married man. I've got a great wife, and I talk to men, and I think I was speaking to a woman a few weeks ago, and I asked her the same question, and she threw it back at me, like, "When's the last great compliment?" And I'm like, "Oh, my wife said something," and I was like, "You know what? Because we don't get that kind of acknowledgement that much, as a straight man, I can say when my wife tells me something good, like, wow, you look good in that shirt. Oh, wow, that jacket fits you. Like, it is like it's amazing to
Yeah.
feel good, for somebody to make you feel good. Like, I'm good for the day. Seriously, like anything could happen. I'm like at 9 o'clock this morning, my wife said I look good in this jacket. Like, there's nothing you can say. You be damned, take your negativity. My wife thinks I look good. It's to get a positive words. And like you said, when she said it, I could see it. Like, yeah, she meant it. It's like she was looking at me different. I'm like, okay, I feel
Yeah.
good about that. And we don't always get that.
Yeah.
That's why I asked about the compliment. Yeah.
With my org, BMe Community, again, I'm surrounded by hundreds of Black people who love. And again, that's been a part of our spiritual practice that was ripped from us. We are supposed to greet each other in love and greet each other in compliments and greet each other in favor, right? It's a part of, if you do celebrate Kwanzaa, right? That we greet each other in love, we greet each other with great expectation. It's a part of our African spiritual practice to greet and love on one another. I just came from Ghana October of last year, and it was a mind-blowing, life-changing experience. Every space I walked in, I received that love, right? And everyone was asking, what tribe are you from? And I'm like, Philadelphia. And they were greeting us in love, family. I mean, it was like, I need to move here. That's how much the love was. And that's who we are at our core, that has been ripped from us. And so, and it's so funny. One of the core practices of BMe is our love campaign, which is to live, own, vote, excel. If we can do those things, it would be great. But it's centered in love. It's centered in love.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been profound, deep, funny, just love, delight, everything you said. You exude all of that when we speak. Where can people find you? Tell us about Be Me. Tell us about what's going on. What's happening right now? Is there any event, something that's going on right now? I know I can see the book behind you. Drop it all. I want it all. Let's go. Tell us about it, sir.
You can go to blacklovewins.com, blacklovewins.com, and grab my book and some other books, or you can find it on Amazon. And you can find me on the socials at Ben Carlton, IBenCarlton. And you can find BMe on the socials at BMeCommunity.com, BMeCommunity.com. And as we talked about greeting when we first started, this is our 10-year anniversary. We first started by awarding Black men for the things they do and the work and who they are, right? And so they would either have on a BMe jacket. And so people were like, well, what does BMe stand for? What does BME stand for? And we're like, nothing. It stands for be you, be me. And so when we see each other on the street, you would yell, be who? And the person would say, be me. So I'd be walking down the street, be who? And I wouldn't even know who said it, but I'll just respond, be me. And that was our love greeting to one another. And so BMe is a national network of community builders that are led and inspired by Black people, where we invest in one another, so that we can all live, own, vote, and excel, despite the many challenges that we face, that we can come together and pull our resources, pull our love languages, pull our expectations, and really build strong, solid communities that work for us. We've been gone strong for 10 years, have awarded over 400 fellows around the country. They've collectively raised $400 million to support the work that they do, all in the name of Blackness, all in the name of this love. And it wasn't until I came into the practice of love that I had enough courage to come out of the closet. I came out of the closet during a campaign that we had called #BlackMenLove. Because when you looked up Black men love on the internet, it was a form of love, but it's not love that's safe for work and safe for, and right. We wanted to change those images. So we asked so many men to write about love. Love your job, love your family, love your son, love your daughter, love your wife. And my team was like, well, why don't you write about who you love? I said, oh, no, I won't. And they said, yes, you will. And eventually wrote an article in theroot.com entitled, I'm Black, I'm a minister, I'm gay. But it was because I was surrounded by all this Black love and constant affirmations. And that's what we need every single day, to be in a tribe that is constantly affirming and constantly loving us.
Excellent. All the information that was given will be in the episode notes. You'll be able to find all of that transcendent time I spent with you, sir. It was wonderful to speak with you. We'll have to find a way to get a hold of that book. I need something to read. I feel like it's the book I've been waiting to read all my life. I'm gonna find it.
It's on Audiobook too. So wherever you subscribe, Spotify, Audible, Google Play, it's on Audible.
I'm gonna find it. I will find it. Thank you so much again for giving me of your time. I so appreciate it. It was wonderful speaking with you. I leave with this. Black men who I speak to predominantly, after hearing Benjamin here, the next time you see a Black man today, go compliment that man. Just go say something. Brother, you look good. Look at that. Look at your suit. Something. Give that man some joy. Throw some Black man joy at him. We deserve it. We earn it. Throw some love. We don't always get it, but when we get it, we keep it, and it carries us throughout the day and the week. The struggle is hard, but love eclipses all. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, sir. Thank you to everybody who listens. Thank you to Chris McGriff, who does my intro and my outro. And men, finally, you know how I end this. Never, ever, ever, ever forget that you are the man and you are the prize. I'll see you next week.